U.S. President Joe Biden will be turning his focus to American politics and his own re-election campaign. Chris Reyes joins us with this story from New York. Good morning to you, Chris. Let's talk about Biden giving his first of two campaign-style speeches later today. We know threat to democracy is something we know he'll likely talk about. Talk to us more about what his expected themes are.
Well, Marianne, let's start with where this is happening, because that has a lot of bearing on the themes that we'll hear in this speech. You know, Biden often casts himself as an elder statesman, somebody who is very aware of historic significance. So in that sense, the location is notable. Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. This is where George Washington's army suffered a brutal winter, almost lost the Revolutionary War, but persevered to secure American independence. And so I think in this speech, Marianne, you'll hear Biden remind Americans about those rights and freedoms that they fought so hard for and how those freedoms are currently in danger. And this highlights sort of the core identity that Biden consistently projects, which is that he's a leader that is a protector of American democracy. And also worth noting, Marianne, is that the speech was supposed to happen tomorrow, the actual anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riots. But there was a big snowstorm warning. And I think the Biden camp moved it today because they didn't want to miss the opportunity to mark that date. You know, for many Americans, what happened 3 years ago when thousands stormed the Capitol to try to overturn the election, that's in the rearview mirror. And I think in this speech, Biden will try to remind voters about why they elected him against Trump in the first place, who also looks to be his main rival at this point for the 2024 presidential election. Ahead of this speech, Marianne, he released a new campaign video highlighting all of these themes. Have a listen to that.
There's something dangerous happening in America. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy?
So that is the tone and themes that you'll hear in the speech, what you heard in that campaign video. The speech is scheduled for 3:15 Eastern time. And then Trump is also holding his own campaign rally in Iowa. He's set to hit the podium at about 5 p.m. Eastern time. No doubt he'll react very quickly to what Biden had to say.
And going back to what Biden is expected to say, and you talk about that significance of the location, the significance of what his message is expected to be, what do you think he's trying to accomplish with this speech?
Two things, Marianne. So the first, he's going to try to remind Americans about why they voted him in the first place. So bring them back to that moment in history, January 6th being the inflection point of what brought voters to kick Trump out of the White House in the first place. A lot has happened since then. Biden has aged visibly. You know, 2 wars have been launched. There's a border crisis. He'll try to remind voters that what he stands for is still relevant. And then number 2, he'll try to zoom out. He'll try to remind voters that despite all of the hyper-local issues they're dealing with, whether they can afford groceries, they can afford their house, whether they're safe in their cities, that without a firm, solid bedrock of democracy, they're not going to be able to deal with those issues. So he'll try to zoom out and give a bigger picture.
All right. Thanks so much for this, Chris Reyes in New York this morning.